Heide, hi, nice to speak with you.
Hi, nice to see you and meet
Yeah,
you
good.
virtually.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's right.
Thanks for inviting me.
No, thank you for making the time. As I mentioned before, I'm not introducing you. I haven't made any kind of preliminary introduction. So if you could just give us a brief bit of background, tell us who you are, and what you've been up to, and what it is you do.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Heide Frank, and I'm a linguist. I'm a language provider. I graduated in interpreting translation, but my third activity is teaching. And I'm a very passionate teacher, so I try and let's say navigate between the three activities. But I must say that in the last years, when I've been much more into teaching than into the other two, for
Yeah,
various
okay.
reasons. I started my teaching back in 1998, so it's been a
Wow.
while.
Okay. Yeah.
I've been there. And at the beginning, I would teach business English at corporate level and academic level. I still do that, but in 3 years ago, 2017, I embarked into a new venture, which was teaching German to refugees and
Okay.
immigrants to Germany. And the reason behind that was that in I don't know if you probably will have also observed the European scenario.
Right. Yeah.
In
Yeah. Yeah.
2015, there was a rise of people when thousands and thousands of people were simply fled their homelands because for safety reasons. That is, they fled war scenarios and other emergency situations, and they escaped these scenarios, trying to find some safe haven and in Europe. And so lots of them, really thousands and thousands, also came to Germany. So there was an institution or a federal office instituted, which was called Federal Office for Migration and Refugees. And they set up some, they found that these people, that you cannot just, let's say, just welcome all the people here. They need to do something. So you need to try and integrate them into this new world they're facing.
Sure. Yeah.
So there was this need, and really a huge need in German courses. And so I tried and qualify for, because not everyone can teach in these cases, in these classes. You needed to have certain prerequisites. I had, that was a teaching experience. You needed to be able to show and prove a certain, as many hours as you, and qualifications, and etc. And then they would get back to you and tell you if you were eligible or not. And in my case,
Okay.
I got that. It was really funny.
Great.
It was
Yeah.
on a Friday. I sent the application, and on the Tuesday, the next week, I was approved.
Oh
So
wow.
I was really astonished.
Uh-huh.
But because there was also, I need to say, it was not only because I was probably the perfect match. Well, I think I was a good match, but it was because there was really high needs of
Sure. Yeah. Right. I see.
teachers. Now the scenario has a bit changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And then at the beginning, I would teach these so-called German for illiterate people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I must say that was at the beginning really like, picture this, you're in a classroom with people from Syria, from Africa, from mainly my cases, it was Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and Eritrea. Now, what they all had in common was there are different groups, and there are also courses only for women, but I had mixed classes.
Okay.
So, which was also very challenging because having Muslim women together with Muslim men, for example, and not, I also had Christians. All my Eritrean students were Christian. So it was also a big issue. The religion was a big issue. I always had to be very, very careful about. And so, I started with these people. They were illiterate, that is, they had never had seen a school from inside.
Right.
As I was saying before, the biggest challenge beside that was also the language barrier. That is, there was no common language to fall back on. No English, no other language they made, because they simply, they didn't know how to write and read their language. And so I had to start with the alphabet.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah. Sure.
single letters and phrases. And after a while, and I was lucky because I really had. I knew people, colleagues who had more difficulties, because I think it depends on the people who are in the course.
Of course
Because
it would,
I don't know, if you have more men and less women, it's also challenging, because the man probably have a certain position towards women, women rights and etc. It's very, very difficult. So women were on the one side, and men on the other side. So I wanted to engage. I went in group sometimes, and pair work. And there were really funny scenarios. I once had really a husband. I asked a Syrian woman to team up with an Eritrean man. She gave her husband a call, and he came during the break and started to shout at me.
Wow.
How could I dare? And he was really, really getting mad. Luckily, I had my colleague was in the back office. He came out and he said, if you don't dare just to calm down and let my colleague leave her alone, I will take some measures. And the first measure will be, we were not trying to, he would just say, I will call the police. I would just accompany you outside. This is not a respectful tone, and a respectful way. You see, it was really. And I was, don't worry, to my colleague, I can manage it. I will tell him. So I took this guy outside, and on the entrance, I had prepared a big poster with different languages, with one simple word: welcome. And below there was written integration course. And this guy already was at intermediate level, so I said, what does it say? And he read integration course loud to me. I said, okay, integration. What does integration mean to you? And then he was like this. And he just would, really step down and really walk out the building. And that was really probably
I can imagine. I mean, it's I've had similar, but nothing to that extreme level of conflict. But I've had the initial experience of the the difficulty of integrating the groups with some of the Afghan refugees that I've worked with. Somewhat similar experience. And the challenge, obviously, dealing with illiterate students, right, and uneducated students. So you're in a very different place than you would be often when you're teaching second language, foreign languages anyway. But also you're having to deal on a completely new level with the cultural aspect, not just because you're teaching students of a different culture. I think that's somewhat common anyway. When you're teaching foreign languages, you're often dealing with multicultural classrooms, but here you're presumably, for these students, you are their reference for integrating into the culture. They're not just here to learn the language, but they're also here to learn how to be a part of that culture, right? So I can imagine that being very challenging. That's great.
This gender, the gender difference. Also big. With you, I guess that male students would never have had an issue. With I also recognize.
With me as the teacher. No, you're right. That's right.
When it came, I also had other intermediate courses. I teamed up with another teacher or another two teachers. So it was quite interesting to see that some students would just behave differently with me than with a male teacher, for example. And or with another colleague, and that was also interesting, of another culture.
I see. Okay.
That was really, and we had some really, really interesting issues. And to see, but I left this. Let's say scenario, so with the illiterate people, and I then have been involved more in intermediate level, courses, so the famous B2 courses.
Yeah, right.
Who knows something about them always fears them because they have to take they have to take a test, a very already at the illiterate level, but that's something else. Intermediate level, why is it so charging? Because the students know they are required to take a test, and if they fail the test, they can take it another time, but at the second time they have to pay for it.
Yeah, right, I see.
Why is it important? Because if they don't show up, they won't get funded by the German state anymore.
Right, okay.
So they need to have some money. They need to, they need money for the families, for living, as everyone for the for living in general.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if they don't have a job, and so this is also very challenging level.
Yeah.
And because in my last course, I had some really, really weird scenarios, because there was quite a few men who decided out of the blue not to show up anymore because they had found a job, and they
I see.
They were done already, and I had to make them understood that well, they could lose the job, then they would be back again, and this is some sort of proof for your asylum or your, let's say, legal situation.
Right.
You have your ID card. Normally, I think it's valid for 3 years. And it always says state of entry, I think, or something. And then you need to be able to prove that you did something, that you attended one of these immigration courses, that you took a test. And if you fail to show these things, you could be just, to have to leave the country, expelled again.
Right.
To leave the country.
Yeah.
So that is something definitely not everyone understands.
Sure.
Yeah?
And it's a somewhat unique position to be in for the teacher as well, because, as we've kind of already touched on, obviously when you move into that position and the work that you were doing before in your corporate teaching, perhaps, you get into that career most likely because you're interested in teaching, right? You're interested in language, especially you with a background in linguistics. Obviously language is perhaps your kind of primary interest, and so you move into teaching, and then in a scenario like that, you find yourself engaged with so much more than just the teaching, right? You're responsible for so much more, and it becomes it sounds like for you at least, a very kind of demanding position to be in, much more than perhaps the standard language teaching position that many of us find ourselves in.
Corporations, you have your like yesterday, well, this is also now in the this is a bit like now in the remote teaching part,
right.
It's linked to that. And yesterday I had a very challenging first lesson with a woman, and well, executive, and she was very challenging already, and she thought that there was first 3 seconds of misunderstanding, that she thought that there was a reason, because I think she had some lessons before with someone else, I don't know. And I just, as I always do, when I just wanted to assess her, so just to make sure, and she was like, what? Do you expect me to start with A1 again?
Right.
And I was really, that was funny. And I said, oh, no worries. I know that you are very good, but since I think that in remote classes, probably grammar should not be an issue, because we should be very much more engage our students into conversations.
Completely agree.
Because also of the famous reduced attention span, that we know that you need to be entertainers. If you are an online student, I'd say, for me, this is what I have learned in these 2 months now, that you need to be an entertainer. If you can't entertain, you need to be like this. It comes up, and then I had to come up. I just said, okay, don't worry, just shared the screen, and then I just uploaded something. So, oh yeah, that's it, what I need.
Right.
We were so happy afterwards. I said, oh, you see, so you need to be flexible, utmost flexible, 360% approachable, and always tailor. everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
also out
right.
of the blue. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you can't do that, then probably I'd say remote teaching is probably not for everyone, I must say.
No, I think definitely not. No, I find that you know, it's, for me, it's a first, and under the current circumstances, I've been kind of you know, I've made the move online for some of my classes and courses. It's the first time for me. For a long time, I resisted it, and I find that I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. But I still, it's certainly no replacement. You know, I certainly am not keen to make this you know, to make a career out of online teaching.
Okay.
I'll probably continue to do more in the future than I ever did in the past. But I'm keen to get back in the classroom and to be working, you know, face to face. And I think many teachers are. In fact, I think this period, I wonder what you think about this, and some of your colleagues perhaps. I think more of the teachers that I've spoken to seem to be more than ever keen to get back into the classroom, where before this, you know, just 2 or 3 months ago, a lot of people were talking about how the future of education was online. And then when this began, when a lot of people were forced online, a lot of people were saying, good, this is the kickstart. This is what's going to make online the real. And now it's been a few weeks. A lot of people are saying, yeah, maybe we were wrong about that. Maybe maybe online isn't what it's all. I wonder if, is that the same for you? I wonder.
No, the thing, the complete opposite. I saw your post, Karl, and I was on the point of answering and commenting. I said, okay, no, if I do that, now I'm the complete opposite. I'm really passionate. I'm so happy. And I really want to, well, I don't say that I will only teach online. I don't think so. I would love to even to get to create, well, that definitely will be the scenario in the future. I think to have some sort of mixed, a classroom.
Yeah, like a blended learning approach.
Blended learning. So, and compared to online, remote.
So why is that? What are the online elements that you like and that you want to incorporate into this blended learning?
With the online elements is probably, well, for me, it's also, well, probably, I'm much older than you. So for me, I've been, you know, when it comes to teaching, you don't know, where I have to go. So you have to travel. It's also a logistic.
No, that much I completely understand.
Very logistic. I don't have to move anymore. I can do that from here. I can schedule very well all the stuff, and I feel I don't feel that much isolated. Maybe
that's good.
I'm probably different because I have met always so many people in my life. So also this getting in touch now with you, it doesn't mean like, okay, it seems like we are close anyway. You could have
of course. No, definitely. I agree completely.
In the I don't know, in front of, I don't see let's say a barrier. I think most colleagues probably see a barrier. They see that the human contact well, is just going down the drain. But I don't think you interact anyway, and so I don't see it as a well, I will, there will be other things I would like to launch in the future, like you see always in the remote area. So I feel at home. I feel because I really probably, because I have so well, if I only consider all the travel I have really behind me. Now I feel at ease really to really breathe a bit and do it like from here. But there will be, once probably the situation will be solved, I will also I also want to go back to the my face-to-face classroom.
But you know, as well, I think an important thing to think about there as well, obviously the moving around for you, especially when you're teaching private, it's probably similar to some of the experiences I've had before, where, you know, I have in the morning one client or one student in this side of town, and then in the afternoon the other side of town. And in a daytime you can be moving around a lot, which is obviously demanding and can be exhausting for the teacher. So definitely I get that. But the other side of that I think one thing that I have always endorsed online learning for, even though I don't necessarily think it's for me, one of the strengths that I've seen right from the start, of course, is for students who have trouble traveling for whatever reason, you know, students who are remote or you know, they can't learn because they can't get to a classroom, you know, it's opening up so much more availability for students that in the past didn't have access to learning. And so when there's a teacher like you who's very keen to do online learning with those students, it's a whole avenue of learning that many students and teachers didn't have access to before. So I mean, I think that there certainly is a time and a place and a great value to online learning. It's not necessarily for me, perhaps, but you know, I think there's really strong reasons to explore that area for certain teachers and for certain students.
However, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And there is one thing probably, or there you really need to differentiate. So even between the courses, I would say, like in this in this area for migrants or refugees, these would definitely not be courses for online teaching.
Sure,
Why?
right.
At least not at the illiterate, you know, the basics, the low level. They can't even use their smartphones. How could they really log on to this? Would not be possible. So in at least as regards this area and this, you would definitely, you could not rely on.
I agree. And perhaps because the cultural element of that learning process is so important, right? They're not, as we said already, they're not just there to learn the language, but they're also there to integrate with the culture. And you can't do much integration through distant learning, I think, right? So there's definitely, you know, there are great strengths in one area and obvious weaknesses or obvious, you know, lacking in other areas. So no, I think I agree there. A couple of things that we want to talk about on this conversation. I want to touch on a couple of the experiences that you've had, particularly some of the transitions that you've made, because there's some nice kind of comparative points, perhaps in some of the different parts of your teaching career.
I mean, like from face to remote, or
I'm more interested actually in one change in particular where you moved from teaching English, which I have assumed that English is a second language for you. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a native. Well, you I'm not a native speaker.
Right. And so you've moved from where you were teaching English to then teaching German, which is your own language. So I wonder how you feel, or if you find any differences in when teaching German, which is your own language. Do you find that teaching that is easier for you or more challenging for you in any way? What differences have you found? Not so much about the students, perhaps, but about you and the teaching side of things.
Okay, I must say that being I graduated, I'm an interpreter, and interpreters do have probably, I did not graduate in linguistics or in Germanistic, you see, in teaching. So it's what I'm like, I didn't have the direct approach, but I'm more like you know, sidetrack.
Sure, I see,
And as an interpreter, you need to be very, very fast and flexible, reacting to your audience. But this skill has really helped me also to tailor and grab really my students' needs.
Okay.
Because I have, and because I stick to a very it's a very famous way, you know, that you will know it. And this is my moral. This is my moral. It's my motto. And my teaching approach, and it is our KISS, and you need to be KISS, and that's it.
I see. Right.
So you need to keep it short and simple. This is my teaching approach. Good. Especially so this means that especially at the, let's say, German, at a basic level. Now there again, you need to differentiate. So what do you teach really? Do you really bother the students so much with these famous cases in German and all, or do they really need to know that, or what do they really need to know to get by? And this is my interest, to really be able to teach, really to convey something really in a KISS way, to give them, to convey the message that they, from the first lesson on, are able to say a few phrases to make themselves understood, to give themselves a voice. And this is very important. If it's, I don't know, questions like, can you help me?
Right.
Questions. This
Yeah.
is something there's in language teaching, not only I think in life, but questions are really the basis
Yeah.
of success
Sure.
in communication. If I can't ask a question, I will never be heard because I will never get an answer.
Right.
So if
Yeah.
and this is really very, very important. And if you tell the people, okay, first approach is to learn questions. And in German, in my German classes, this would always work very well because I would just team up people, yeah, and you ask a question. Now let's see which answer you get.
Sure. Yeah.
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 So the
Yeah.
communication flow is guaranteed 100%. So
Yeah. Right.
that's
Right.
a very, very easy thing to do. Whereas
Yeah.
in English, even there, people are, and then it depends. I have had so few grammar fans in my life, and I'm a
Right.
big fan of
Yeah.
the
Okay.
English grammar.
Okay.
And
Good. Yeah.
my daughter, poor thing, she can only, she can only, well, she knows that I'm really, really picky when she
Yeah.
makes a grammar mistake. And
Yeah.
I will always, or also in spelling or whenever there's a mistake, I will definitely spot it. And and it's really, in that case, what did I do with English? I at the beginning, and I still remember, now it's really 22 years. I still remember first lesson, and when I said, okay, still a student, or we'll start with grammar. So I really bothered those poor people. If a poor thing is, if they hear me or listen, or I don't know if they will, just forgive me. That
Yeah.
was stupid, but I was at my first teaching.
Yeah.
So please,
And
please, yeah.
and that's so much
Yeah,
the traditional approach, right? I mean,
yeah,
if you know, things are changing now,
yeah,
especially in fact in the language teaching field, right? So it's
yeah,
the language teaching, and actually in particular the EFL field, that really is pushing
definitely.
towards that more practical
Yeah,
approach in teaching,
yeah,
where
yeah,
before
yeah,
you know, it was very grammar oriented,
yeah,
and in the
yeah.
school settings we're still seeing a very traditional approach.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, you were amongst the crowd there. I think everybody was probably doing the same thing you were, and you might still be, you know, kind of ahead of the curve a little bit in the
Yeah,
shift that you've made. But there are some interesting things I want to come back to there, because
yeah,
I'm like you, actually. I'm really interested in grammar. I'm really interested in like the technicalities
yeah,
of language, and so when I'm
yeah.
learning a foreign language, that's kind of the thing that I'm really interested in and intrigued
Mhm.
by as well. But when I'm teaching, I know not to focus on that, as you've just said as well. You know, I think we
Yeah,
now know better, where maybe in
yeah,
the past that was the approach. I think we now
yeah,
kind of realize the value of the communicative side. So even though I like the grammar, I know I
yeah.
shouldn't beat my students' head around the head with it.
Oh no.
But something that I wonder the
Yeah,
role that it's played for you, because you
yeah,
have that background in
yeah,
interpretation,
yeah,
and interpretation obviously is, you know, the whole goal is communication, right? Helping this
yeah,
person communicate with that person. So I
definitely.
wonder how much that actually informs your teaching approach now, where you've got a much more communicative approach to
Yeah,
teaching. Do you
definitely.
think the interpretation
Definitely.
plays
That's
that role? Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
That has always driven me, always. Yeah. And it's clear I always wanted to help people just communicate, yeah, and get their message across, yeah. In the I've always been a bridge, yeah, between
Right.
my customers, my students, whatever, and so and another culture, and I've also always tried and demystified probably a bit intercultural bias and
Mm-hmm.
prejudice, yeah,
Yeah.
in business, and not only in business but also in the classroom, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So
Yeah.
people have an idea, they come to the classroom, have an idea, oh, all Germans are like this, all Italians are like
Sure.
this.
Uh,
Oh, okay, hold on, calm down. Now let's, yeah, talk a bit about that.
yeah. Yeah.
And this is what I'm always, it's like sometimes I feel like Don Quixote, yeah, again, fighting against the windmills, but still
Yeah.
I'm trying,
Yeah.
I'm there,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to do my best. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's really good. Yeah. What
Oh, can
about?
I ask you a question,
Oh, yeah.
Carl?
Please.
I
Please
have
do. Yeah.
one coming back to grammar. I was thinking, yeah, being you, I think you are a native speaker. So I have adopted something, or if you can guess what it is and what you think about that, I've adopted an approach which is called slim grammar approach.
Okay.
If I say something, this is no real term. I always call it like that. Now, if
I
you
like
think of
it. Go on.
slim grammar approach, what do you think? What does that mean? Which
Sounds to me.
grammar features will I teach? If
It
I
sounds to me
teach
like
today.
I don't know. Maybe you're going to focus on kind of the bits of grammar that really impact on meaning, perhaps. So maybe kind of, you know, grammar can't be ignored. I think we certainly want to agree with that. So maybe I think there are certain things where if a student makes a grammatical mistake, the person they're speaking to is still going to understand them. It's not going to really break down the communication. Okay, he said that wrong, but I know what he means. And one thing that I found about English speakers, native English speakers, that, and I don't want to kind of upset anyone here, but in my experience, English speakers compared with some of the other cultures that I've worked in, we are quite keen, or it's quite normal for us, I should say, to try to fill in the gap. So if I'm speaking to somebody who's making mistakes, or maybe there's something about what they're saying that's not completely clear, I will be, I'll make the effort to kind of help them out and to fill in the gaps and maybe kind of try and work out what they're saying. Whereas there are other cultures that I've interacted with where if you don't speak perfectly, they will kind of leave you hanging.
That's like the French, but that's again also cultural bias, I must say. All my French.
So I think it seems to me that English, English has some kind of strict rules to it, but you can get away with a lot of mistakes in English and still be understood quite well. Whereas there are other things where if you make a mistake, then it's going to change the message. It's going to lead to some breakdown in communication. So I don't know, maybe my guess would be that your focus is on the grammar that matters meaningfully and communicatively. Would I be on the right track there?
Yeah, so I can tell you what it is. So you have answered my question, but now I'll tell you the features and the grammar features.
Please do.
In my English classes, that is present. And first of all, I always start off that I think this is a huge wow effect, because hardly ever, I don't know the reason, but I see that, well, at school still with my daughter, that the teachers simply do never ever care to explain that there is always, with every tense, well, nearly every tense, there's a present, there's a simple and a progressive form, and that's it. Once you understand what progressive means and what simple means, you're done. So I only focus on the present simple progressive, past simple progressive, present perfect simple progressive, and that's it. I skip and that's it. I think this is enough, to communicate at a basic level. If clauses are there, I know colleagues are very fond of if clauses. I always skip them, and I always say I only teach if clauses if I have salespeople around.
I think there is a difference, especially because you're teaching in a corporate setting, right? So you've got corporate clients, and I think that it is very important for any teacher to really think about the goals and the objectives that their students have. And if when you're teaching corporate students, occasionally, really all they want to know is, look, how can I use English to do my job, right? I have targets, I have quotas, and, English is going to help me do my job. And in those cases, you really do want to narrow down specifically onto these phrases and these bits of language that you're going to need. And then there's all this other stuff over here that you can learn one day, but maybe isn't the most immediate. And I think, I like your link between if clauses and salespeople. I think that's a perfect example of that. No, that's certainly something that I think any teacher needs to consider. And they might, we might not always come to the same conclusions, right? We might decide what I'm going to teach might be different from what you're going to teach. But the important thing, I think, is that we've taken that time to have that thought process and say, okay, what does my student need? What is going to help them, and what is going to get in the way of their objective? And then and focus on teaching the things that they're really going to be useful for them, which, as I say, might be different for different teachers and different students. We might not end up teaching the same thing, but that a process of coming to that conclusion, I think, is really important. That's really
why needs analysis are so vital.
Exactly right.
For the success of your teaching. If I do not have a need like I wanted to do yesterday, also with the but in the end, we were fine. She was happy. Okay.
And also, I'm interested in the I don't know if you have anything interesting to say about this, I wonder, but the culture of the students as well. So when you're teaching teaching German students,
Yeah.
compared to when you're teaching some of your international students.
Yeah.
Is there anything characteristic about German students that you found that you have to approach them in any particular way? Is there anything there that you would identify?
Well,
So,
I
for
think,
example, if
yeah.
okay, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It depends what you mean. So if you have, okay, well, sometimes it's, okay, as regards corporate courses, probably we need to distinguish a bit. So first of all, if I teach, and normally I teach at international companies.
Right.
So
Yeah. Right.
this is already very helpful. Yeah. So
Yeah.
when it comes to English, and do you want, or the other way around? So they're both.
Either way, really. So I mean, so just as a brief
when it,
example, just to kind of
brief
show you
example.
what
So
I'm
let's
talking
go
about.
for the expats. Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's,
Okay. Yeah.
that's probably easier. So those people who
Sure.
come to Germany and who work at an international company normally.
Yeah.
So there are different challenges. Also, what I have figured, what I'm figuring out is especially now, right now in the remote classroom. Well, the content is the same. The challenges are the same compared to the face-to-face. I already had these issues before. But the points were someone coming over here, speaking only English at the workplace, and being, however, being motivated enough to say, okay, I'd like to move out of my comfort zone. And even if I know that in Germany, probably lots of people speak English, I want to learn a bit more even about the German culture.
Yeah.
So can you help me, please? I would like to learn German. So even if I don't need it. So again, there's also this communicative approach, which comes into being, because no one really of my students cares about grammar. They only want to be able to communicate. So what is it then basically? It comes up to you break up the lesson and you just say, okay, let's try and figure out at the beginning. For example, I have a game which is called something like the 10 or 20 things you have always wanted to ask and never dared to.
Okay.
So what that is simply I asked you to list up, to come up with as many sentences as possible in their native language, well, it's mainly English. And and then we are translating them, and it's always such a fun, because we are learning so much. And it's also, well, again, it's the, from my background, it comes from my background, so translating stuff. And then we need to see, okay, but probably it's not only translating, but it's also okay to see that in an email, for example, if someone comes up with an email, can you help me write the email for my co-workers, for my team in German? We are meeting next week, so can you help me to prepare the agenda? And probably there will be differences, or I don't know, questions I would like to have, and so can you help me? And so they need already an input, not to hassle and then not to worry and bother about the German. Is it the dative or is it accusative? So the
right.
Which preposition do I need with which case? No, they don't have to worry about that. And I think this gives them already, when they learn this in the first lesson, when I tell them, when we talk about they're already happy, and they say, oh yes, such a big relief, I don't have to bother. And I'm very much interested, they are very much interested in the culture. When I always ask them to bring in, like, or either, if you want to call them realia or authentic material. So yesterday I had someone bringing in a bill. So I said, okay, can you tell me what's written there? What is this? So, okay, I help them with these things as well. And then we compare, and I say, okay, how is it in your country? Do you get these things as well? On forms, what is included on a form? So name, family name, or family status. Is that really necessary? Do you think that's necessary to put it on a form, or, discussions as well? So easy things.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Engage them, as much as, and I always give them, and this is, I wanted to ask you if you think that's a good idea. I have figured out a new thing which is called self-reflection template.
Okay.
And self-reflection template is something for me. I share it at the end of the lesson because I think that feedback and reviewing is so vital, not only for us to give a feedback to the student, but also vice versa to improve.
Yeah.
There's always
Yeah.
a room for improvement.
Yeah.
So I created this and I sent it out and I said, okay, don't worry. You have to do that. Well, you have to do that. You can do it one day after the lesson to see how much you still remember without looking at your notes. Can be one word, can be a phrase, it can be an idea we were talking about. And this is very popular. It has become very popular amongst my students because they really love this self-reflection.
Yeah.
It's something really helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because it incorporates some recall practice, right, which is an important part of learning. So what I think we find is often students will have a lesson and they'll learn something in the lesson, and then because the lesson is over, they don't need to worry about it again for maybe 6 months until it's exam time or something like that. And of course, if they're not thinking about it, then they're going to forget it. And so by giving them these little tasks like your self-reflection task, that encourages them to think back and remember what it was they learned, sometime in the near past and maybe a little bit longer sometimes as well. It's some recall practice, which is a really good way of making sure they remember what they've learned. So I think that's a great thing to do. And what I like to do as well with reflection tasks like that is to also incorporate some process reflection. So not just reflecting on what they've learned and can they remember what they've learned, but also I like to get the students thinking a little bit more about how they learned it, and thinking a little bit more about whether they enjoyed the lesson, whether they think they participated well in that lesson. Were they a good student in that lesson? What did they like about the lesson? What did they not like about the lesson? And like you said as well, feedback for the teacher, right? Because we can always find something to improve upon. So I like to kind of incorporate those all together and get the students kind of keeping something like a learner's journal, a learner's diary, so that over time they're building that up.
Students do, and I also encourage them to. I mainly so far use this is individual and preference, but I'm very much fond of Skype, so I normally do teaching through Skype. So we have the chat function, and I'd always tell them to copy and paste and put them all the things out, the vocab and everything. And what I do is at the last 2 minutes, I always have this sort of wrap up, and I say, okay, please feel free to tell me if this was a good, like yesterday we had some reading comprehension. Did you like that? Tell me, please, because if I don't know about that. So always feel free, even after the lesson, to email me and tell me if there's something special you would like to talk about in the next lesson. I do have my ideas what I will be when it comes to the planning, but still, I'm always free. And this is again this student-oriented or student-centered approach.
Right, of course, and it's giving them a lot more voice and a lot more ownership
not
in the
me
learning process.
In the focus. It's their lesson and not my lesson.
Good,
I always say
that's good. I wonder if you've used before a couple of digital tools that are really great for this as well. Are you familiar with Voxer?
No. What is that?
So Voxer, and then another similar thing, Kaizena.
No.
And these are both kind of digital online platforms. Voxer is an app that you can use on your smartphone, and then Kaizena is a browser. You can use it with Google Docs and with.
Send me.
I'll send them to you, and I'll put the links up with this video for other people as well. And both of them allow you to share voice feedback. So record voice messages for your students and they can reply as well. And so it allows you to give some of that feedback spoken, so that after the lesson, because sometimes the students, they feel a little bit more comfortable doing it that way. When it's not directly to you, they might not necessarily feel comfortable saying everything in their mind. And also it's a little bit more casual because it's spoken than if they're kind of having to sit down and write their feedback. And they're two really good options for that. That I've been experimenting with lately.
How is it integrated then? How can you use that with a video conferencing tool like Skype, for example?
So both of those I would use after the lesson. So after the lesson is finished, I would then.
Is it that, so you would use the mobile number, however, or something?
They both work with kind of an internet account. So as long as I think Voxer can use an email address or a phone number. So either way. But basically, you make an account and then you connect to each other. And Kaizena, the other one, works with your Google Docs, Google Drive account. So if you're making, online documents for them to work on, whether it's a collaborative task or an assessment or an activity, you can then connect this Kaizener to the Google Docs so that you can give spoken feedback to, how you'd normally leave a comment. So you'd highlight something and leave a comment, but with Kaizener, you can highlight it and then leave a voice comment so that they can listen to your feedback rather than just your written feedback. So both of those are nice. Something maybe worth trying out. And as I say, I'll leave links for that with the video as well in case anybody else wants to try them. There was something else I just wanted to bring up as well with that feedback. I think I've forgotten.
Probably technology books.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I can't remember what it was now. Something about that's right. Similar to the journal that we were talking about and what you get your students to do with their self-reflection. Another idea that I've experimented a little bit with, and that I often recommend to other teachers, and I wonder if you do yours this way, is something called a correspondence journal or a correspondence diary. And I first came across this from, I don't know if you're familiar with Jennifer Gonzalez from Cult of Pedagogy. So another link that I can share with you and put along this video.
Definitely.
The correspondence journal, so that once your students do their self-reflection, they can then they can keep a regular diary or a regular journal after their lessons, and then they can submit that to you, and you can kind of write back to them, and so it becomes like a letter exchange. They write they're writing in their journal, they submit it to you, you can kind of give some response, and usually it's not kind of academic response, so it's not to correct their language or to correct their use, but to just respond to their thoughts. So they can write about how they're not feeling as motivated lately. They might write something about how they've kind of lost some motivation, and it's a chance for you to kind of engage with them on a more personal level. But because it's by sharing this journal, or you could do it through the voice calls as well, the voice messages as well, because it's not direct face-to-face, they often feel a little bit more comfortable opening up and maybe saying more, sharing more than they would if you just ask them point blank. Sometimes they might get a little bit nervous or a little bit embarrassed. So I wonder if have you done anything like that with the self-reflection of yours? Okay. Do you think you might try it out?
Yes, I have for next week. I know I have some writing assignment to writing something with a student of mine. I already told. But I think it's a good idea. They can it was just a exchange of something, ideas also. What
exactly right.
What they liked, what they didn't like, what could be done better or whatever. I think it's so important that we're getting feedback as well, like you say. And I think allowing them to do it in that kind of removed way, so that it's not face to face, they'd often be a little bit more honest and maybe a little bit more harsh. We might get some feedback that we weren't expecting, but it's all something valuable that we can learn from. Right. And feedback can always be cultural as well. I learned that.
Of course, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So especially when it comes to if you have some, I think these feedback sheets which go from 1 to 5, and I still remember getting the feedback always in the middle. In German, it's when Germany, it's really as well. It's a big problem.
Oh, really?
However, I learned that in the US, however, if they give a feedback and it's in the middle, it's excellent.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Problem. And people get worried if there is a
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So
I find a similar thing here in Indonesia where I teach. It's quite common that you'll just kind of for one reason or another, and I don't think it's just because of me, but maybe it is. I don't know. But I find you'll never get an excellent.
No, never.
Even when the students are really singing your praises, either directly to you or to other people, I get a lot of great feedback, word of mouth, so I know that the students are happy. But then when they fill in the form, if it's 1 to 5 or 1 to 4, it's always 1 below. They never give you that excellent. That's quite common.
I hear you.
Okay. Do you think there's anything else that you want to talk about before we're done? I think we're pretty much wrapping up there.
No, I think we have dealt with
I think we got it.
I don't know if you're happy with me.
No, that's great. Listen,
my answers.
yeah, no, of course. Listen, you mentioned near the start that there's a couple of things you might want to launch once, once this period is, once we're through with the current kind of challenges. You might want to launch some things that are kind of blended and online. So it'd be great if we could maybe talk again once you've got some of those things up and running and see how they're going.
Wow. Always also collaboration with like networking with fellow teachers, videos and these things, and writing and articles and blogs.
Right, great. So is there anything maybe that you want to anywhere that you want to point people in the direction of, any of your articles or anywhere that you write or
well, I finished an article this week, but I still need to see where it goes. And probably And then
so once you've got that, we'll put some links
and post it.
Great.
I think it hopefully it will be, I guess it will be published, but then I will always try and because I have never, I should also get going, I don't know, on LinkedIn. I wanted to start posting there.
Sure.
Articles, and probably I would have to, however, it's a long, so that it would definitely have to be shortened a bit for LinkedIn. And so let's see if I do. I definitely want to get into that as well.
Good, yeah. Okay, well, when you do,
it's very challenging, but it's so let's see what the next months and then will bring.
Well, if you send some links to me, then I can put them up with the video, so that when this video goes up, we can have some links with it as well. And some of the things that we've talked about during the video, I'll put some links up as well to send people there. And like I said, maybe we'll speak again once you've moved on with your next project.
Yeah, definitely. I will always keep in the loop then.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, thanks a lot, Heide.
Thank you for your time.